بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Would like to go back to Israel because they are the one who are taking the shots right now. They are actually in charge and they are ruling the world events. Do you think that there is eschatological motivation in Israel politics, in Netanyahu politics? We have this organization called the Third Temple, which is government funded, and it's in charge to make the Third Temple, and you will explain to our viewers what does that mean in their eschatology. We also have this viral interview between a rabbi and a young Netanyahu, when the rabbi is scolding Netanyahu, saying, "Where is the Messiah?" And he answered, "We are working on it, we are working on it." So do you think there is an eschatological motive in Netanyahu's politics? And let me remind you that this morning when British recognition of Palestine happened, that Netanyahu explicitly mentioned the end of the world will be coming. And I don't think he's joking.
To answer you, I have to go to the Quran, to Gog and Magog. And it is such a pity that although the Quran speaks on the subject of Gog and Magog, our people unfortunately choose a different route to study the subject. They go to the Hadith, whereas I go to the Quran. And when I go to the Quran, I find that the Quran speaks of a town, and the Lord God destroyed that town, and He expelled the people of the town, and then He placed a ban on them that they could never return to reclaim this town as their own until Gog and Magog are released. And when they are released, they will spread out all over the world. And with their indestructible power, they'll take control of power in the world. And this, Maria, is an event which will occur only once in history. And I'm now addressing the young ones in the Balkans. Put on your thinking caps. The elders sometimes don't think, but the young ones, put on your thinking cap. Which town is this? When they spread out all over the world and they take control of the power of the world, they use their power to oppress. They use their power to corrupt. They are an evil people. Anything they touch, they transform it into something evil, nasty. These people, Gog and Magog, will then bring these people back to that town. 2,000 years after they had been expelled. Which town is it? My eschatology and that of my teacher and his teacher is that the town is Jerusalem. How do I know that the town is Jerusalem? Answer, our prophet said it. He says that the Lord God will destroy Gog and Magog in Jerusalem. He said that the Lord God will destroy Gog and Magog in Jerusalem. Jerusalem. And therefore, the town is Jerusalem. And therefore, the people who were expelled were the Jews. And they were banned from returning to Jerusalem for 2,000 years. So who brought them back? Who brought the Jews back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own? Is the Quran silent on this most fantastic event in human religious history? Is the Quran silent? Or is it that you are not studying the Quran? The Quran is not silent. The Quran is saying that those who brought the Jews back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own, 2,000 years after they had been expelled and banned from returning, they are Gog and Magog. And so Gog and Magog are not only those who control power in the modern West, with NATO and the European Union, but Gog and Magog are also those who control power in Israel. So it's not that they are pursuing an eschatological agenda. More than that, worse than that. They're taking the Jews on a ride. And it's the last ride on which they'll ever go. And at the end of this road, there will be the utter destruction of the Jews. And so mine is a solitary voice, Maria, because I have recognized that there are Jews who are righteous people. I just had a session in Wembley, in London, with 2 Jewish rabbis, and these were very good people. These were men who showed integrity, supporting the Palestinians, and they were rabbis. And so I have to say to the Jewish world, it's time for you to get off that train, because those who control power in Israel are taking you to your destruction. The eschatology that they are planting in your minds is that we are taking Israel to become the ruling state in the world, and therefore that validates our claim, and that soon the Messiah is going to come and rule the world from Jerusalem. It's not the Messiah, it's the Antichrist.
Yes, and that was actually my next question, because Netanyahu is doing it in coalition with America. Of course, you know the famous story about the perfect red heifer that's been breeded in order to be sacrificed in Al-Aqsa Mosque. Those cows are actually breeded in United States, in Texas, in evangelistic farms. And this August, at the beginning of the month, they had like a rehearsal burning of the perfect red heifer. In the same month, we had Smotrich or some other guy from Israeli government who went to pray in Al-Aqsa, although it's forbidden for Jews. And I have to ask you, if the war spreads, are they going to bomb Al-Aqsa because of their plan to bring up the Armageddon? Because it looks like they're heading that way.
I have always held the view, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I've held the view that Al-Aqsa Masjid will be destroyed by a convenient earthquake. And so they say, you can't blame us for it. It's an act of nature. But whatever it is, they will have to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa in order to build the temple. The Messiah that they consider to be the Messiah who will come, cannot declare himself, I am the Messiah from Jerusalem, unless and until the temple is rebuilt. So, but I think that's one of the last things that they will do, to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa. But the Great War which is coming is more important. That Great War can be triggered, I hope I'm wrong, when it is clear that Ukraine is losing the war and Ukraine is close to collapse. Then in order to save face, in order not to face the embarrassment of having Russia winning the war, they can trigger off the Great War. If that is so, then we probably have less than a year or 2 years left before the nuclear war takes place. Maria, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I have to explain to you, this is a possibility. I'm not afraid of the Great War. I'm not afraid to die. Any pious Christian or pious Muslim or pious Jew who is not afraid to die, because life and death are in the hands of the Lord God. Ask any pious Jew, he'll tell you, we're not afraid to die. Ask any pious Christian, he'll tell you, so too with the Muslim. We are not afraid to die. If the Lord God has written death, we accept it. What is important is what comes after the Great War. And our prophet has said, and his is a solitary voice, No one else has said this in all of history. Only Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, he said that 7 years or 7 months after the Great War, a Muslim army will conquer Constantinople. Since he used the name Constantinople, I can use the name Constantinople because that's the Sunnah. You can change the name if you want, but you cannot script me, you cannot brainwash me. My Prophet used the name Constantinople, therefore I can do it. The Muslim army will conquer Constantinople 7 years after the Great War. So the world of Islam will suddenly wake up. And Muslim governments around the world are going to be moving out. The people will be taking over 7 years after the Great War. When the Muslim army conquers Constantinople, why would it do so? My answer, you may accept it or don't, this is my answer. My answer is we are going to conquer Constantinople so that we can return Hagia Sophia to those to whom it rightfully belongs. I hope these words can reach the government of Turkey. I hope these words can reach the Turkish people, because the Quran prohibits you from taking a Christian cathedral and transforming it into a masjid. Go to the Quran and see. The Muslim has an obligation to fight, if necessary, to protect that cathedral rather than to take it and transform it into a masjid. When we return Hagia Sophia to those to whom it rightfully belongs, and when the name of the city is restored to Constantinople, and when those who have been driven out of their homes, where they lived for thousands of years, Armenian Christians, innocent people who were being oppressed and then driven out and genocide, we say to the Armenian Christians, come back to your homes, come back, let's live as brothers and sisters together in fraternity. That is going to bring about the reconciliation that I'm struggling for, and friendship and alliance between our two peoples. This comes after the Great War.
Let me go back, and that would be my final question about the nuclear... Last one, yes. About the nuclear war. The reason I was worried because of that sentence that Netanyahu said about the end of times is that they do have nuclear bombs. Do you think that Israel will use it?
That's a difficult question for me to answer, but what I do know is that Pax Judaica, although it is now beginning, cannot be firmly established without the nuclear war. The reasoning behind this is that you have the two superpowers in the world. On the one hand, you have the Russian-Chinese alliance. On the other hand, you have modern Western civilization with NATO. And Pax Judaica cannot be established with these two still there. So the reasoning is that if you have nuclear war, they will mutually destroy each other. And what remains of the world after the Great War will be very easy for Israel to handle, to become the new ruling state in the world. So how will the nuclear war be triggered off? Nobody knows. But it's most likely going to be some false flag act that's going to trigger off the nuclear war. There are other experts, much more learned than I am, who can offer an opinion what can possibly trigger off the nuclear war. That is not my field of expertise. But that the nuclear war is coming. It has to come because Pax Judaica